And there we are. All right, guys.
Greetings, everybody. My name is Tom Badillo. I've been kicking around the SCA since the mid 80s when I was dealing with the Moondragon documentation. Over the decades, I have trained many martial artists in various forms for international combat. But over the years, my health, as Bridget has indicated, has diminished. Therefore, I wanted to learn adaptive fencing, and my buddies over at the Dickens Fair allowed me to do seated adaptive fencing within period costuming. I then asked Coach Jiim, the owner of On Guard Fencing, if wheelchair fencing was something that we could explore up in Santa Rosa. And he said yes. So he allows us to use his Zoom, and we have recorded some sessions and for the adaptive. And he has also talked to individuals at the veteran centers about the possibility of teaching veterans the combative arts of fencing. So we're taking it from there. Bridget knows that I do this, so she asked, could we do it for adaptive rapier? I said, sure. Coach, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jiim, and I am here at On Guard Fencing. We have a busy class schedules here today, so there will be people walking around behind me, but so you have to forgive that. But I'm really happy to be here to share my knowledge about adaptive fencing and how we've been working on applying that to adaptive rapier for the FCA. I think it's a great project, and I'm interested in developing it further. So I'm really glad to see folks here to try this out and ask questions, and hopefully we can come up with something great. So today, I guess what we're going to be doing, as I said, is we're going to be sharing our information and knowledge so that you can apply it to what you do. My knowledge of SCA is limited to what basically to what Bridget and Tom have talked with me about. I've been to a couple of SCA meetings, but I just am pleased to be invited to do this, and so I just want to thank you for taking the time to join us, and hopefully we can share something great here.
Yes, and Coach, as the owner, has HEMA classes going on at On Guard Fencing, and the last class at Bellatrine indicated that there was a crossover of longsword fighting, wanting to do with the cut and thrust. So Jiim, that's something that I wanted to share with you that was shared with us in the last hour.
Oh, nice.
Bridget, is there a way to show more than the 4 folk? I see you, and I only see 2 other folk.
The other thing,
you need to unmute your mic, Bridget.
Yeah, I think you need to change your view, Tom.
Okay.
What view are you on? I'm on speaker, and I can only see 4 at a time as well, unfortunately. But
Okay, so we only have
gallery view. Gallery view will let you see everybody, pretty much. Or yeah, everybody here.
Okay, I understand.
Okay.
I understand. My tablet works differently than everybody else's. Okay, so guys, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking about what is done in the 21st century and how we can modify it for period fencing. And this is pretty much modified, i.e. seated. Coach is going to be my fencing demo person. And the first thing we're going to talk about is how the chair, stool, wheelchair is positioned, how far away it is from your opponent, and what some of the fundamental basics are before we talk about anything else. So that's step number one. Step number two would be, what are some of the biomechanics that you have to utilize as an adaptive fencer? And these are things that I've called from yoga, adaptive yoga, personal trainers, and so on. So those are the two things that I'd like to cover. Coach Jiim is going to cover some other topics that he'll talk about in just a moment. Coach, will you please demonstrate the the chair and the adaptive distance?
Okay, so first thing is we like to have the chair at an angle, so it will not be facing directly forward. So I just have a simple folding chair here. So it does have a high back. We prefer to have something lower if possible, like in an adaptive fencing chair, wheelchair, but we don't want it facing straight like this. We want it off to an angle because I'm right-handed, I would have it at this angle. If I was left-handed, I would move it to this angle. So that when we're seated, we want to have our body kind of, in a way, bladed to our partner, okay?
You froze, Jim.
There we go.
You have your feet strapped to the footrests. So with our feet flat on the ground, we have our back straight. To determine distance, you want to be sitting completely back in the chair, and you would actually have your weapon in hand. So I'm going to grab my rapier.
Your background noise is killing me there, Jim.
I'm sorry, guys. Hold on just a sec. Hey, guys. Sorry, I needed a little quieter. All right.
You would think you're in a studio or something.
Yeah. So you have your back to the back of the chair. And with your weapon like this, what you want to be able to do is you're going to reach out here with your weapon. The other person will be across from you, and they're going to have their weapon up like this, so that their elbow is here in front of them, okay? So it'll look like this from the side view, okay? It's a 90-degree angle with the arm in front of it. You can't be like this, or here, you want to be a 90-degree angle, okay? And what you're trying to do is, when you extend, you're trying to position yourself with your tip comes in contact with the elbow right here, okay? So if the tip can be here, when they're like this and you're both in the back of your chair with your back straight, so you can't be hunched forward, you can't be leaning back, it has to be here, okay? Now, this is not going to be the same, this is not going to be true for both fencers. This is going to be for the fencer with the longest reach, is going to be extending. Fencer with the shorter reach is going to be with their arm up like this, okay? Now, once you've determined that, and you've adjusted yourself so that you're in that distance, you are at a proper distance for hitting the target, okay? If you lean forward or lean back, we'll talk more about how to lean, but this is the basics. If I am in the chair and I'm fencing, I'm not allowed to come out of the chair. I can't stand up. I can't bring my legs up, right? I can't lift my legs up, okay? I want to stay seated in the chair, but I can lean forward and lean back and to the sides as well, okay? Oftentimes people will have their rear hand. Now in rapier, you want to have it guarding, okay? But you can also have it gripping on the back of the chair right here, okay? So that can help you when you're leaning forward, one of the important things here is we don't want people falling out of the chair. Okay. So if you're doing a lunge, for example, and you're coming forward like this, we don't want people to be tumbling out or leaning back and tumbling off the chair, right? So if you have something holding on, that can help steady you as you're moving, you're dodging or something like that. Okay, you want to be able to stay steady on the seat. Okay, so having a little bit of a armrest on the side like a chair would have would be good too. So those are some of the basic rules that we work on in the class, work out of. The other thing is that for the purposes of rapier, we're going to use something similar to what we call the FA rules in adaptive fencing. So everything below the hips, right, is off target. So a strike to the leg will not count. Only above the hips counts. Okay. So obviously you're going to want to be wearing a cup, but if there's going to be a hit, it has to be above this, because we can't move the legs out of the way. This is going to be adaptive, so some people may not have the ability to move the legs as easily. And you have to make account for all different types of physical abilities. So I can have my hand lower if I were having a low guard, okay, but I can't hit the other person on the leg. I have to hit them on the stomach or above. All right.
Okay, Coach, thank you so much. We're going to go into the warm-up that I have everyone. Tablet, camera, quarterly. Sorry, okay.
Can I have a quick question real quick?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Coach, did you say that the person with the shortest reach is the one with the elbow? Is that correct?
I did.
Okay. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm always the one with the shortest reach. So,
Okay. Yeah, you're up like this.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, so now we're going to deal with biomechanics and warm-ups. Coach, could you please turn your chair sideways toward the no, full on to the roll-up door.
Where's the rolling door? Yeah.
Okay. Can we get the guys to walk on the other side of the camera?
Trying. Sorry. There's not really room to go the other side.
Okay. So put the rapier down.
Up right now, so there's a lot of traffic.
Put the rapier down. Okay, class, I'd like you to be able to hear me, but look at Coach Jiim. With Coach Jiim, we need to be able to show what a thrust is versus what a lunge is. A very, very little thrust, Coach, is just an extension, like so. Recover. Please pull your chair backwards, Coach, away from the door so it will fit more in the screen. Please do that again. An extension. There is no hinging from the hips at this point. Coach, please recover. Please do a slow lunge. Notice that his back is hinging. We are doing a hip hinge. Recover, Coach. Please put the rapier down. Everyone, please look at Coach. Can everyone see Coach's screen? He is going to do some hip hinges. We're going to do it slowly. We're going to do 5 forward. We're going to do 5 to the right, 5 to the left. And then he's going to change his chair position so we can do a retreat. If you guys would all do this hip hinge. Ready? Begin. This was brought from adaptive yoga, where we are learning how to do seated yoga for seniors. Please note, you may want to hold on to the back of your chair when you are going to do these lunges. Please do them to the right, sir, so that you are dodging to the right. 5 of those. And then 5 to the other side.
I'm not in the.
Notice that it's slightly off. If you have arms on your chair, this wouldn't work very well. That's why in wheelchair fencing, we have very low handles on our wheelchairs. Coach, please turn your chair so that you can do a retreat. And recover. Again. And recover. Okay, Bridget, this is the very first thing that I taught you in the adaptive fencing class, yes?
Yes, sir.
And we said that we have the ability to do something a little bit more aggressive. I'm going to ask Coach to demonstrate something that might actually topple him out of his chair. And in Olympic style fencing, the wheelchair is actually bolted to the floor, to a platform, and the 2 wheelchairs are bolted together at the appropriate distance. However, at the Dickens Fair and at SCA events, there is the possibility that you might throw yourself out of the chair. Coach, can you please demonstrate gently the possibility of coming out of your chair? Recover.
Far forward. If I lean too far forward, I can come out of this. If I shift my weight, and if I go back too far, yeah, the legs can start extending and I'll fall out of it.
Very good. Okay, everybody that's watching that wants to participate. Are you in the chair? Do we just, Bridget, how many folk do we have left?
We have 4. Simone says that his tablet has a very bad camera. I'm not sure
Okay.
what's up with the other guys, the other folks.
Okay. So if everybody, if you'd like to do this, you are welcome to. If you don't, you can just follow along with Coach. Coach, can you please turn the chair towards the camera so that we can see it dead on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What we've learned teaching through Zoom is that the camera is very bad at trying to see rapier angles. On the last Zoom class that was last hour, I thought there was a slope being shown, and there wasn't one. It was a flat ground. Coach has the rapier in his hand. He is going to do a thrust, a lunge, a recover, a retreat, a recover, a thrust, a lunge, a recover, a retreat. Shake it out. So the other thing that you guys are going to be able to do is to be able to dodge. Even in a seated position, you have to be able to displace your body. Bridget and I have been, and Coach Jiim have been using Degrassi because the SCA rapier fencing back in the 80s was just generic SCA rapier. Nowadays, in the 21st century, we pulled some of the training and we looked up Degrassi. Degrassi has 2 wards, a low ward and a high ward. What are they called, Bridget?
Bassa and Alta,
Low
low and high. Is
and high.
literal translation.
Little translation.
Mhm.
Very good. Very good.
Low and high.
Now, in Saviolo, they say that there are only 2 targets in Saviolo, the face and center mass. Bridget and I have decided that for seated, there is the target of the belly, the sternum, the face, for center line, and then you have your arms. Okay. Please, if someone is trying to attack you on one side, you want to be able to dodge. Coach, would you please dodge to the right? Notice that he's sort of throwing his left behind, so it could be a passe for the attack. Recover. Now, dodge on the other side. Notice he's almost folding over, and he's using his rapier to close the line, not a parry. It's more of a closing of the line. Okay. Coach Jiim and I both were trained in modern Olympic foil French style. So we use those terms because we already know them, and we don't want to have to bastardize the masters. If coach decides to retreat, lunge. This is the most difficult. Recover. For me, this is the most difficult core work that I have to do. Hinge backwards without falling out of my chair. Lunge forward. All the way back. My brain thinks I'm still 30 and can do this. My 60-year-old brain goes, no way. So try these out slowly, and this would be your homework. After doing your warm-up, retreat out of distance, come into distance, go back out of distance, lunge, and recover. Dodge right. Recover. Dodge left, lunge. So very slowly, we recommend that you warm up. We recommend that you have lots of H2O to drink, and you hydrate. Okay, Coach, anything you'd like to add to that basic warm-up?
Yeah, so definitely want to be listening to what your body is telling you. I always recommend to my students that they are breathing properly while they are doing the lunges and the movement. So if I'm hinging forward, I'm exhaling sharply from my mouth. If I'm moving back to my neutral position, I'm breathing in through my nose. If I go back, I exhale sharply every time I move, hinge forward, hinge back, or to the sides. What that helps me to do is tighten up my core and give me a better balance. I always breathe out sharply through my mouth, breathe in through my nose, if I can do that, okay? It'll help you to steady your balance. That's one of the most important things I want to add to that.
We've been working
And-
on the breathing lately quite a bit. And it does help.
Great.
At this point, we're at the half-hour point. What questions do we have?
Anyone, you go ahead and turn your mic on if you have a question. Anybody? Do we still have these other three people here, or are they just not here? I don't know. We may be just us and Gaitha? Gaitha, is that how you pronounce it? Gaitha? Did you have any questions, Gaitha?
No, I was just trying to write and move and think all at the same time.
Right?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you taking notes. Great. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is we also have worked through some parrying and blade movements with that as well. So counterattacks, opposition. So we're using blade actions with this. One of the things we've noticed is when we're in basso, our hand is below our leg, so we have to actually raise up to get into a parrying position for here. We can move in circles if we need to, but we actually have to. I'll show this. If I simply go straight across, I'm going to crash into my leg.
Right.
So I actually have to lift up a little bit, but not too high. I don't want to be lifting up like this necessarily, but I'll be coming forward a little bit and to the side for my parry. So we've had to make some adjustments for seated right here. This is one of those adjustments. Okay, it's not going to be exactly as you would see in the manuals because we have this in the way. So we have to make sure that that we're doing this action properly. So
My part is huge, so I have to really watch it because I've cranked myself in the leg several times already.
Yeah.
We do
I
have
want that.
one other student. They indicated that they're enjoying it greatly.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Cool.
So
all right.
what would you like to cover next, Coach?
I think it would be good to go into some blade actions because we have the if you have a partner, this is great to work with, but if you don't have a partner, which we've been doing in their Zoom classes, we have to imagine, we have to visualize what our opponent is doing. So and then run through plays that way. So we usually start in the low guard, the basso, and then we do actions like we're going to be entering. So we'll do an attack. We have to enter by either pressing the blade or doing something that forces our opponent to react to us. So in this case, what we like to do is we won't step forward, we'll actually extend slightly and raise our hands so that our weapon can be resting, pushing into their blade to push it in that direction, okay? And that will elicit a response from our opponent. So they're, generally speaking, if they don't react to that, you can finish, right? And I'm turning my hand to oppose their blade and push it off in that direction, right? If they do react with a disengage, which is very likely, they'll come around underneath. If I push them that way, they'll respond by going that way. Then I can immediately go into this position here and then finish. Now I'm actually holding on to my chair. I extend my arm and then I go in, okay? So I can lean forward more safely. Yes, Coach?
So we talk about bringing our blade into contact with our opponent's blade. So that's
Correct.
engagement. Coach
Yeah.
then talked about disengagement. So these are the terms that we used in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and Degrassi uses different terminology. So we'll have to come up with the appropriate master and what term that they use for the 1500s, 1600s.
Yeah. That's a
What
good,
is the next definition or technique that you want to teach, Coach?
okay. So the
Coach?
opposition is what I was going with next. So if I'm here and I am in contact with their blade and they try and force their way in, I can extend so the strong part of my blade is controlling their weapon. That's with opposition. I'm opposing and pushing their blade out of the way with my guard and my weapon. So that's when I press. If they react a certain way, good. Arm goes in and I lean forward into it. Okay. If I press and they disengage and start coming in this way, I can carry that blade and then riposte with opposition. Okay, so I want to be able to control their weapon as they're coming in. So a lot of times I won't even have to go forward. If they're coming to me, I just extend and move their blade out of the way. So
So when Coach talks about with opposition,
I'm sorry, Coach, yes?
when Coach talks about opposition, he's talking about maintaining contact with the opponent's blade and not pushing it out of the way, but there is some contact. In other martial arts, this is sometimes called sticky hands, where you just have contact. If you've ever played slap hands, you just keep contact so that you know you have the sensitivity of this. You're trying to find the sensitivity. Blade work, yes, you're absolutely right. So same thing. Very good. Sorry, I talked too much, Coach. Continue.
No worries. It's important. Leverage is part of this equation too. So if I'm pushing into their blade and they have control because they've got strong to my weak, then that's a position I don't want to be in. So I want to be the weak part of the blade to the weak part of their blade when I'm pressing. Okay, and then I can thrust into that so that very quickly that I get the leverage from that. Now, in opposition, I'm not trying to chase their blade away. If they start to try and come around or do something else, I can finish like this and hit, okay? I just want to close the line out so they have no chance of hitting. And of course, I still have this hand in play, so I can always move their weapon out of the way if necessary. Right? I might have just a glove on this hand or a baton or a dagger, whatever it is. If I'm over here and I'm coming in, I'm hopefully using my leverage here to push them upward. And if they're thrusting into me, I can do this. Just extend. If they're trying to get away, then I might have to lunge going forward. So those are some of the special considerations when you're seated, which is you have to move your weapon around where your legs are. But when you are, once you have engaged with their blade and your hand is past your knee, you can move pretty much the same as you would normally. The consideration is, do I have to lean forward? Do I simply extend to reach their target? Do I have to dodge? I decide, do I have to retreat and hinge out of the way? So the hip hinge is really going to be critical to all aspects of what we're doing here. Yes, Coach Tom.
With regards to hip hinging, we have talked about being right forward, right foot forward and right hand forward. We actually do all of this on the other side because I come from a martial art that you started off with dual wield, just like the person who just wrote about offhand. You must be equally strong with your abs to do these hip hinges, both on the right side and the left side, especially for the getting out of the way. Did I answer the person's question regarding offhand? Or would you like me to continue?
Just so that she know, yes, you can use daggers, you can use anything you use in normal fencing, in normal rapier, you can use in seated as far as your offhand. You just have to remember, especially with things like your buckler and your dagger, that you don't want to hit your legs. You don't want to be hitting your legs.
You also need to keep your balance.
Yeah, you need to keep your balance. You need to not hit your legs. You can do dagger and sword. Yeah, you can do all those. And she was also asking if the blade work is pretty much the same as regular fencing. And I think we have pretty much said yes, right?
It depends on which master you are studying.
Right.
I mean, Capoferro versus De Grassi versus some of the other Italians. Capoferro? The guy who does, it looks like you're on a cell phone, and he's all the way back. That's very different.
Yeah.
And on a stool, no.
So yeah, there's definitely some things. I'm sorry.
No, just, yeah, that's for Bree, and that's something I normally do when I'm
For Bree?
standing.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no
Barbara.
way.
Thank you.
Right.
Bree on a stool, oof.
No, I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah, so that's really what I was thinking of. Is that you will have to make some adjustments, especially for low line things, but it's really going to be a matter of setting it up and then experimenting, like how can I actually do this action, right, when I'm seated. That's kind of what we've been working through in a lot of our actions, figuring out the mechanics of it. Most of the high line stuff, if we're up here in the Alta, then I can come down on their weapon, I can move their blade around as I need to. I can manipulate it. I can move my weapon, my offhand, like so. But if I'm in the low line, I don't want to be crashing into my leg all the time. And I don't need to defend my leg because it's not target. So I can move across like this. I can come down here and then lift my blade up. There are some considerations you need to make for being in a chair, but they're all around, like, what are your legs supposed to be doing? You have to stay in the chair so that it's fair and safe. And you're going to be moving very quickly when you're warmed up completely. You can hinge forward and hinge back quickly. All right, but as Coach Tom was mentioning, in the Paralympics in adaptive fencing, the chair is locked onto a frame so that it can't move. But in this example right here, what we're doing right here, we don't have anything locked into a frame, so the chair could fall over if you overbalance, and that's something that's important to keep in mind. I'm sorry, I saw someone say something and I didn't see what it was.
It was with regards to using a stool as opposed to a chair. We did talk about that. Bridget, you might want to talk about your experimentations with some of that.
Right. what I've been doing, I've been using a stool because I feel like a chair with a back is a little problematic, but if it's all you have, you know, that's what you're going to use. But you have to, because of the whole thing with the back and trying to retreat, so what I've been experimenting with stools, and what I have found, and I'll show you mine, is that what you want is a stool with a nice wide angle. Because if it's just kind of a straight up and down type of thing, or less angled, it's easier to fall out. I actually have bought 2 different stools now, and this one is definitely the better of the 2 because it has more of an angle on the legs, and it gives me more stability. And one thing that we have discussed in class is attaching the legs to a piece of plywood, a small, maybe a 4x4 piece of plywood when you take it out on the rapier Eric to actually fence, so that you have even more stability. Because really you don't want to be pitching forward and falling in and out of your chair. You really want something
Safety
stable.
first.
So I would
Safety
definitely
first.
say, as far as being able to retreat, you're on a stool, but you're going to have to think and find the stool that is the most stable for you. But in a pinch, you use a chair.
Right.
With regards to secondaries, yes, you can use a dagger. Yes, you can use a mailed glove. Yes, you can use a cloak. However, the cloak may foul your vision. If I was going to use a cloak, I would have it already wrapped around my left hand and use it as a battering weapon. You can also use, as Bridget has done, a stick or a baton. You can use Kesa rapiers, like Morozzo, although Morozzo is more cut and thrust. What we've been trying to figure out is how to really measure that 6-inch draw cut or push cut, so that the marshal will be able to see it from seated, because you have the ability to do the draw cut on the mask and as well as the arms. And gee, you're all in black. How does the marshal see it? Unmute, Bridget.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we're not a determinate marshal it though.
The
We
conventions
don't call it. They're supposed to be able to call that themselves.
Oh. My mistake.
That's okay.
yeah.
We're not determinate though,
There's a
unlike collegiate fencing.
Right.
Yeah. In adaptive fencing, there's a referee. Oftentimes they will be seated as well.
Oh, good point.
So they'll be seated and watching what's going on.
Right. Well, basically in the SCA, the marshalate is there for safety.
Yeah. Understood.
So we have 15 minutes left. We are going to do a little bit more, but I do want to give Coach Jiim the chance of telling the audience where he teaches and how everyone can join the classes, the Zoom classes that he offers.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's great. So On Guard Fencing is in Santa Rosa, California. We have coming up this month, have been here for 12 years. We have a variety of different programs, from the Olympic fencing, which is what I usually teach. And I also have a number of EMA classes. So there's longsword and also a rapier class. We have the ability to do adaptive fencing. Now it's not necessarily in wheelchairs, but we make do with what we have, which is we have some stools, we have some chairs, so we can actually work through and practice adaptive. The way to find us is we're EG Fencing. We're at egfencing.com. That's our website. So if you want to get a list of the classes that we do, we have a variety of stuff, like I said, from HEMA to fencing to archery. So we practice all that. And
And people can also contact me if they need to be reminded of how to get a hold of you.
yeah, I think that would probably work best. We do have a regular seated rapier class every Tuesday.
Yay!
And Tom and I are working, teaching. So
I'd love to have some company.
yeah, it would be great to have more people join us. I agree. I would love to get some feedback and information from people who are knowledgeable about the weapon, and we can develop a really good curriculum with the chair, with seated rapier. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you, Coach. So,
You got
This
10
was-
minutes about.
we have 10 minutes. This is supposed to be a 101 class, the fundamentals. What you need to know how to do is you need to be able to attack, you need to be able to defend. Coach, will you please show the defense from Alta?
Okay. So if I'm in Alta, I can parry in a number of ways. So I can do this, and as I'm doing this, I can retreat, is what it's called. So I can retreat or hinge back. If I'm in Alta, I can drop to a lower guard here if I need to. And the opposition can work the same way. If someone is, I can basically put my weapon down on top of them and then push them to the side. So there's a lot of actions from here, but the main one is I can sweep down here, I parried, and then I can riposte from there. So from Alta, what you get to use, which you don't from Basso, from Alta you get to use the weight of the weapon to bear down on their weapon. So that's one of the main things that we use, is the actual mass of the weapon to bear down on them. Okay. Now, of course, they can disengage around that, but pushing down on that gives you a lot of leverage and control over what they're doing, and if you can shift based on how they're moving, it's really Alta is a very powerful position in the seated rapier, I think. So so I like using that a lot. And we've gone through, what we've been doing is we were reviewing some able-bodied fencers doing Degrassi, and we were adapting that. So we're working through a series of actions that people were showing us from the Degrassi text, from the manuscripts, and we were just working through those one by one with starting with Basso, and we were working on Alta.
And those of you who have the Moon Dragon manual from the 80s, the SCA, I recommend that you grab that to see where I'm coming from, because it's a long set of decades. Any other final questions before we sign off at 5 till?
Benjamin, you've been awfully quiet. Do you have any questions? Or you got to turn.
I don't have any questions, but I've been fencing with cerebral palsy for about 30, going on 40 years. And some of your approach, it's okay. Other parts of it, you know, I mean, the starting point for me is always what can the person do?
Uh-huh.
And so the whole thing with holding onto a chair, that's a huge assumption. A lot of people who are in chairs, who are working with chairs, who are moving with chairs, know how to do unusual movements without falling out of it. Because for one thing, ice cream and gravity. If you drop the ice cream, you have to be able to get it. And they can do that. It's pretty much the same motion. I did some of your, I tried your hip bend. It works really well. If I tuck my legs up underneath so that I'm not using them, because I want to take my legs out of the equation, I can do that same motion without holding on by doing the classic fencing arm drop, which is designed to do this job. That whole arm motion is designed to get you in and out of a lunge. And so, that's something I would add to it. The whole idea, people talking about Fabrice, I've been working with Fabrice for years, and I've been working with it. I would say I spent a good 2 years doing single sword Fabrice exclusively. And I can tell you there are moves within Fabrice, specifically plate 5 and 6, where the guard is here. You're gripping your sword is horizontal, or the other, where you're off to the side. They would work brilliantly in a chair. The idea that I think that you might want to consider is that the biomechanic in a lot of these motions, which is designed to create distance, is also designed to create distance with balance. And so when you're looking at really adapting these motions, look at how look at how they do them, and then figure out how to get the full capability of the person you're dealing with. That's just kind of like off the top of my head.
That is an excellent point.
Yeah,
That
I
is an
think you're on the right
excellent
track. I think you're on the right track, but the really crucial thing that you're missing is that, if somebody like me walked into your studio and, went to go for adaptive work, we wouldn't be on the same page or the same level.
I
in
have
the
taught
sense that-
software for over 30 years, and the very first thing I do is qualify the student. In a 1 hour 101 class, I was limited to that, and I did not have the ability to do a pre-study. I didn't ask everyone what they could do. That would have taken up too
Right.
much of the time.
That was one of the
However,
first things we
I
went over, was
I
what I was able to do.
I completely and utterly agree. That is the best practice that I should have adapted.
Yeah, that was the first thing when I started taking lessons with Tom. The first thing we did was we talked about what I was able to do. He talked about it in depth. We discussed it pretty well. But yeah, that's, always know your audience, right? Always.
When I teach internationally at Combat Con, I don't know the students I'm getting. So I've got to start from a set point.
Yeah.
That's
a very good
I,
point. Yeah.
No.
Thank you, Benjamin. That's good.
yes. So,
And Benjamin, if you wanted to write up any of these thoughts, I would
Please.
love to get them from you, because I'm trying to bring adaptive fencing more to the West, but this is all new for me. So I would love any sort of thought you would have. I'm on Facebook as Bridget Zent, and I would love to have some of your thoughts, and I'm sure these gentlemen would as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Tom. Thank you, Jim and Tom. And thank you, Jim, for taking time out of your studio schedule to be with us today. Our next up on this is going to be our